And now we are on the internet. Pretty cool. Yep, things seem to be peachy keen. It's good to be here. Thanks, everybody. So, hi. Wow. I'm getting random text messages already. This is always a good sign. Oh, I'm getting supportive messages from people telling me to have a good time. Thanks, everybody. How have you been? How's everybody going? Everything good? Yeah. I do. Frankly, there we go. Sometimes it takes a minute for this thing to kind of like kick in and do stuff. Because until I get this little notification saying, hey, I'm streaming, I'm pretty much talking to two bots, which, I mean, is not all that dissimilar than what I do on Twitter. But, you know, at least when I possibly talk to a person, I can have a response. So let's tell everybody I'm streaming. That sounds good. Let's press that button. And then come over here and press this button. I know, this is the most riveting 90 seconds of my entire recording, but I should have automated this stuff, and I didn't, and that's my fault. Because I was busy doing a ton of things. Good things, positive things, like putting the website together and having it not crash, and updating the website so it didn't crash, and whew. Boom. Done. All right, let's go. How have you been? What's going on? How was your weekend? Did you do anything exciting? When we last talked, and I had to double check, we talked on Friday. I know that seems like, you know, ages ago, because time is a construct whose seams appear frayed. But yeah, how was your weekend? Did you do anything good? I did. I caught up on some stuff I meant to finish watching and finish reading. I made some plans to do some work today, and I got a lot done. I also badly burnt a finger, but not like the tip of my finger, the outside edge, like the part that doesn't normally touch anything else. That's what I somehow managed to burn. I don't know how I did it. I just did it. And I don't know. I think it looks kind of cool, but I'm weird. So it was an interesting weekend. It was interesting. I watched a couple streamers. I think the technical term, well, I know it is lurking. I don't know if Twitch has its own vocabulary for it, but I lurked. I watched some way more successful people just do a lot. It was good. It was really good. I learned the importance of like gesturing, but I also learned the importance of like having way more busyness on the screen, which kind of intimidates me. One, because I don't know how to set that shit up, and two, I don't want it to be busy. Like, maybe that's a thing I gotta really work on. Maybe that's a thing I gotta do like way more tech support to help with, because it just doesn't do anything. But I've also designed all the layouts and all the screens and all the everything to kind of not have that clutter. But yeah, maybe it's time to reconsider that. So it is possible at the time you're listening to this, when we do the Wednesday night writers chat, which is coming quickly in 2 days for February 9, it is very possible that I will have changed some things. We'll see. We'll play around with it. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I can do it, but I'll certainly give it a try. This is also a really good time to point out that everybody has just been super supportive. Like, that's a thing I'm ridiculously proud of. Now, granted, I have an audience that you can measure, you know, on the number of fingers you would press a elevator button with. So my audience is small but intense, which I love. But I don't have any jerks. Like, there's nobody blows on through just to be difficult. We did get that crypto bot that one time, which was pretty exciting. But by and large, I'm a very small fish in a much bigger pond that is not as dried up as some of these other people would have you believe. I mean, now granted, This is education, and I'm sure if I was out there legending some Apexes or playing any number of other things where virtual bullets virtually murder other virtual humans, I would not stand a chance at competing. I mean, who wants to see essentially their dad lose at video games? I will tell you this. I did at one point think about doing it. I way back in the day, when on my first PS4 before it died, you could stream to Twitch. I used to stream like Batman and stuff. And originally my stream Twitch name was John Plays Games Badly. Some of that video stuff might still be lurking somewhere. It might even still be on this channel. I don't know. But I thought for a long time, this is back when I wasn't doing this and I didn't really care enough. My head was way up my own ass, but I didn't really care enough. So I usually just use Twitch and streaming as like a goof, just kind of like, whatever, work's done. Let's go play a video game badly. And I didn't realize how much work it was. I didn't realize how much was required. I just sat there very quietly and I didn't have a headset. I don't own any gaming gear beyond the unit and some games. So I don't really stream any games, and it intimidates me to do so because I have a hard enough time sitting here talking to you when it's just you, and I've got to do something extemporaneous and either fill time or sit here or whatever. So I can only imagine the sense of constant, I'm playing a game and then, oh shit, I got to do something because the guy shot me. So now I have to turn and mug for the camera. And I as much as I am a deeply extroverted person, I have real periods of just excited. Oh my God, I'm doing a thing. Let's go. I don't I spent a long time, years, not having a camera on my face. So the idea that I'm going to make faces when my embarrassing dumb shit happens was a really interesting thing to grapple with. And I still I don't know. The games are mine. I like playing them. It's bad enough Discord casually mentions when I'm playing a game or when I'm just doing dumb whatever. But yeah, I think the games are going to stay off this Twitch. I don't have it in me. I'm not interested in having a second Twitch. That just seems that's where my age shows up, right? Where all of a sudden I'm have a second one? Oh my God, there's already plenty here for this one. I just feel old now. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at tonight. I do, if you're curious, I do want to address the question in advance. Yes, I did eat. Yes, it was very good. I have had multiple meals today. It's a setting I can tell Discord not to do. Oh, Sam. Oh, Sam, you've changed my life. You're the best. Thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, that's going to happen. I'm going to make that setting change. I do it now if it didn't require me to put my head down and look at my phone. So yeah, that's happening because I love you all, but Discord is 2/3 of a second away from telling you John's looking at butts right now. And I love you and you're great, but your butt time and my butt time can stay away from each other. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're changing that setting. Write yourself a note, John. Write yourself a note. Oh yeah, Discord setting games. Cool. Sweet deal. All right. Tonight I've got something different. Risky different. Dangerous different. Not sure if it's going to work different. Not sure if this is going to be a 10-minute thing or a 2-hour thing or anything in between. I want to tell you a story. And I'm not really sure where to start, so you're going to have to forgive a couple pauses as I start to spool this thing together. I love being interviewed. I love talking into a microphone or writing out my answers or recording something, especially if I can not embellish. That's not the right word. That sounds fraudulent. But if I can add music to it, or if I can like give myself air horns or like party horns, I'm a really happy guy if it becomes like a production, because I didn't get enough hugs as a kid, and I generally like making things bigger than they need to be for both good and ill. That I think reveals an awful lot about my personal life. We're gonna circle back to that point. Don't worry. But I love being interviewed. And I like meeting new people who will interview me. I like talking to people. I like making friends, which is weird because I'm not great at maintaining those friendships. And I swear this is going somewhere. But I like being interviewed, and I go out of my way. And if you're following me on social media, you can follow me on Twitter. I am going to push more, not so much to be on like the mainstream podcasts, because a lot of the people who host mainstream writing, teaching, educational podcasts hate me with the fury of 1,000 like Valkyries. They just know I am PNG to them, man. And you know, I get it. I really do. Hang on, what's this? Oh my God, Sam, I love you. Thank you for giving me directions to turn off the setting. That's, woo. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that while this file is uploading later. I love you so much. I hope you're doing well. Wow, changed. Get air horns. Here, have multiple air horns. You're worth it. So I love being interviewed, and I like it when smaller people, and I don't mean to make that sound pejorative, but I like it when people off the beaten path, people who are still on their come up, people who are still developing and growing, and people who aren't like the top of the mountain come and talk to me, because I feel far more connected to them in their come up than, you know, the top tier people. Now, part of that's going to be insecurity on my part. We're going to come back to that point too. But at the same time, I don't have a lot to talk with them about. You know, once we get past the idea that they and we've all been doing this the same number of years, or we've all worked with, you know, large numbers of people, or we vaguely, you know, share some friends in a Venn diagram kind of way. Once we get past that, I don't have fuck all to tell these people. I want to. I would love to. It would be fantastic for people to go, hey, famous celebrity podcast person, how are you? I don't. I have instead loads of people in the A-, B+, B range on the way up, who hopefully will one day make where they want to go and do what they want to do. But I hang out in that crowd. I find it a little less threatening. I find it a little easier to talk to. And I'm always happy to yap at, near, with them. So I got interviewed, oh God, I guess it was like 2 weeks ago we set it up, maybe even 3 weeks ago. But for whatever reason, it hasn't yet come to total fruition. But the person interviewing me was nice enough to send me the questions in advance. Hey, you know, fill these out. Which I don't mind. I don't really need the questions in advance. If you've listened to any of the streams of the podcast before, I generally don't have trouble once I get going, just to kind of fill space and time and talk. But it was nice to get these questions in advance. And I have to tell you, these were not fluff questions. Not that I expect interviews to all be fluff. In fact, I get bored very quickly when I can tell, oh, like one question's serious and there's 10 other questions that are just kind of like softballs and just whatever. These questions had a lot of thought in them. These questions were deliberately organized in a way to be provocative, not in like a shocking, edgy way, but like to get an answer out of me and to have a good, detailed answer. And I hope that if we can, you know, take this into another medium, if I get a chance to actually communicate verbally in the course of this interview, I hope the answers I give, or answers I gave, are supplemental and work in concert with what I would say to communicate this stuff. But one of the questions that really like got me, one of the things where I sat back and I was, that's a great question, I love that, was a question about failure. And I really, one of the only advantages really to writing out your interview stuff is that you can edit it. And I don't mean like trim out the good stuff. I mean like you can write a thing and decide whether or not it's good enough and then go back to it. So I wrote a handful of different versions of answering this question. What have your failures taught you? What have you learned from them? And in several versions, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. In several versions, I wrote a fairly melodramatic sort of, woe unto me sort of thing, where it's all very clown shoes and it's all very, oh, poor pity John, oh, pity party me. And then I wrote a couple versions that were just sort of flippant and not obnoxious, but I was really worried it could be taken that way by somebody who didn't really know me, where I just kind of downplayed it. And I wanted to strike a balance because I don't have... all right, let's start it this way. I have failed a lot. I have failed frequently. I have failed disastrously. And I regret some of those failures. And I'm sorry for many of them. But not all. And not all to the same degree. But I also don't think some of the things I know I failed at, I didn't entirely fail. I don't agree with fail as a label. It might be a verb. It might be a state. It might be a thing that does or does not happen or gets attached to, some other... I gotta drop this camera. It's a little high. Hang on. There you go. Sorry. I apologize. Apparently I'm supposed to treat you like you're a person and you don't want to be pointed at. I apologize. Or something. I read that today. That was a thing. But where did I leave off? Oh, failure. I have a really complicated history with it. I am more known for my failures than my successes. Now, part of that's by virtue of my job. If I do my job right, if I edit your book, or if I coach you for a couple hours, or if I help you with your query letter, or if I help you with your pitch, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what the thing is we're working on, but if I help you with it, there's ideally no evidence that I specifically came in, unless you leave my name on a comment or something, or you write yourself a note that name checks me. Once all the notes are cleared, once all the changes are changed, once all the things are accepted, once all the stuff moves on down the road, if I do my job right, I'm invisible. I didn't learn that lesson easily, but I've learned that lesson now. And I've just had to come to terms with it. My job is invisible. I'm gonna just ninja in and ninja out and do what I gotta do. Part of that I like, because it affords me a buffer. Because if I don't know you and you hand me something, I can tell you how I feel about it. I can point out what works. I have some level and measure of objectivity. And I can be right and I can be wrong, and you can be right and you can be wrong, and we can figure out how to make it work together. But part of me also finds it a failing of the whole process that I don't get credit. I think you should put your editor's name in your book. They do for role-playing games. I know, I'm in a lot of them. There's a shelf. Well, where's my camera? Over there. There's plenty. They were unapologetic and, hey, John, slap your name up on here. Cool, neat, I did. I wish fiction did it. I wish fiction didn't hide so much the number of people, the number of hands, the number of brains that got together to produce a thing. But I understand the fear. And the fear has to do with failure. The fear has to do entirely with the idea that if you list out all the people who helped for your book, whatever it is, and your book doesn't do well, meaning it doesn't sell to any number of degrees the way you want, or it gets badly reviewed, or it's the subject of, some kind of, what was the adjective I saw on Twitter? Rogan-esque level of drama. Roganic? I think it should have been Roganic. But I think you understand what I'm saying. But in the absence of that, or not, but in the absence of the success, I should say, in the absence of success, it can be particularly frustrating when everybody's named. I get it. But at the same time, like, if it fails, your book goes out into the world, but it doesn't sell. Now, we're going to talk about this in more detail shortly. But if it didn't go well, why would you want to face that alone? We're definitely going to talk about that later. The point I'm trying to make, the point I'm slopping my way through, is that I got asked this question about failures, and it made me incredibly reflective. And once I was done being melodramatic, and once I was done being mopey, and once I was done being arrogant, I really sat down and I tried to answer the question. And I thought that the answer I gave was a good jumping off point for tonight, because I think it's worth talking about. I think failure conceptually and failure specifically, and they are two different things, but I think talking about failure in whatever form it is critical for your writing process. Absolutely. I wish the music was slightly more serious than it is. Maybe I should switch to a different track, but that's not much better, John. Hang on. I'm sorry. There we go. But failure is important. Now, I'm going to apologize slightly. I talked to the podcast people before I started here, so they've heard me say some version of this, but I'm going to tell you, it's not bad. It doesn't have to be bad. It's going to be part of your process, no matter what it is you write, no matter what degree you write, no matter what you do or don't do or how far it goes. Failure is your second shadow in this business. And you don't even get excused from it if you don't treat this like a business and you're just writing to write, or you're just writing with no intentions to publish. You just want to say you wrote a thing, park it off in a drawer, hand it to somebody as a gift, call it a day. You're not really going to go be an author, but you did write a thing. No matter what. And no matter what you wrote, you could write the most epic fantasy. You could write the most, charmed romance. You could write the most, action-y action that ever actioned, kids book, whatever. No matter what, failure becomes your second shadow. And how you deal with that, what you do with that, how you think about it, how you carry it, how you let it carry you matters. And that is really why we're here tonight. So call this night, call this time some combination of catharsis, motivation, education, and provocateur. Call this some manner of honesty. Call this some manner of accountability. Call this something different than a how-to. Because if there's one thing we all don't need, none of us need a how-to on failure. We're all going to do it. We're all going to do it. And we're all going to do it plenty of times between now and whenever it is we shuffle from the mortal coil, no matter what. Whether we go on our own terms or by someone else's, or by accident or by intent or by age or by injury or whatever, failure is with us. And I think it's okay. It's not great. Nobody likes failure. There's a very famous set of tech bro points for success that talk about embracing failure, that talk about, they use some really gendered, hostile, aggressive, anti-woman language about how you want to subjugate and objectify failure. You want to assert dominance in a sexually aggressive way on it. You basically want to commit a sex crime to it. And aside from that being real gross, because why is that always a text bro's first point of access. Like, yeah, well, sex crime right away. Like, that's awful. Ew. But the remaining points all talk about something in terms of building a baseline philosophy or thought process around failure and to not be intimidated by it. So I think that might be one of the only things we're going to take from a tech bro. Because how we conceive of failure in the big picture matters. I didn't always see failure the way I see it now. The way I see failure now, depending on who you ask, is either a result of me failing so much and so spectacularly, or it's a result of me just being this old, or it's a result of me talking to so many other people who have succeeded and me feeling jealous, or it's group therapy, or it's rehab, or it's whatever else that led me to today's current thinking about failure. And why am I talking past the mic? Hang on there. No, sorry, technical issue. I didn't always like failure. I used to avoid it. Maybe you've done this. Let me know if you're in chat and you've done this. Let me know. I had a pretty good sense early on as to whether or not I could do a thing. I knew, like I could tell, like, oh, that thing, that activity, that skill. Yeah, I that's not for me. I don't like that. That's not a thing. So I would not only like select myself out, like self-select and self-choose to avoid, but I would go out of my way to avoid. Like, oh, I could do that thing, whatever it is, that task, that chore, that game, that thing. I could do that, and if I do that, I could fail. So I better not do that at all. What that did, well, on one hand, yes, I did get what I wanted. I didn't want to fail. True, it happened. I did not fail. But so long as I was actively avoiding whatever it was, I was also not succeeding. And there's a difference to make there. It's one thing if you're attempting something, if you're making the effort, if you're putting in the work, if you're doing something and you fail while you do it. It's another thing entirely to never even get started with the thing because you are absolutely 1,000,000% certain that if you did it, and if you did it to some degree, not just start, but like proceed down the path and finish and move forward with it, no matter what, you would fail. Even though, you haven't even started yet, doesn't matter. But because you would have started and because you would have made progress and because you would have finished, it somehow means you also would have failed. So rather than do all that, rather than go through all that work, you're going to save everybody, whoever everybody is, you're going to save everybody all the trouble and not even bother to do it in the first place. As if you're doing somebody some great favor and sparing them while also simultaneously telling everybody or convincing everybody and yourself to some degree that you're not good enough to do certain things. Even though it is statistically, mathematically, creatively, functionally possible that you might be good at it, but you'll never know just because the chance for failure exists. I struggled with that for a very, very, very long time. My entire teen years, all of my 20s, about half of my 30s, I would go out of my way to avoid things on the chance that failure was in the neighborhood. Oh, I can't go out. I can't do that. Now, granted, yes, part of that's paranoia and depression and anxiety, compounding the number of lies my brain was telling me. But it's also more than that. It's also a matter of like knowing I could do a thing, but because there's a risk, because it's not 100%, absolutely conquerable guaranteed, I wouldn't even try. I lost a lot of opportunities that way. And when I hit my mid-30s, something about that attitude didn't work for me anymore. I'm not entirely certain what it was, if there was some incident that catalyzed it for me, if there was some thing, some conversation I said or something that was said to me, but it clicked in my head that the argument of, well, I don't want to do a thing because I could fail, is not that different from, well, I don't want to like leave the house today because I might run into a cloud in the sky and that cloud might rain and then the road might flood. So I'm just going to stay in. It's a little ridiculous when you think about it in those terms. But that's the same degree you're thinking about not writing or not finishing or not querying or not trying or not starting. Somewhere somebody's going to see a cloud and it might rain, and that's a reason for you not to go out. Somehow somebody somewhere might not like you and like your work somewhere on the planet, so you won't start. I did that for too long. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work for two reasons. One, you are trying to make people you don't even know exist, but people you're assuming exist. And you're trying to assume, you're doing those people who you just made up, you're doing all their thinking for them. And you are assuming they're going to dislike you. And you are trying to make everybody like you for this thing you haven't even done yet. First of all, not everybody's going to like you. Second, it's okay if not everybody likes you and what you do. And third, you need to do these things for you. Yes, I know. There's like a whole sell a book, make a profit, be an author, get legit, whatever you want to call it. There's a whole like hoopla around it. But at its core, this is an activity you do with results designed for you to achieve the goals you have. You're not going to make everybody happy. If that were the case, I wouldn't spend as much time as I do talking about book marketing, because everybody would know how to market, and it wouldn't even matter if you did it well or different, because everybody would buy every book. It's not the right attitude. And rejecting yourself because you're assuming some people don't like you. Here's where the therapy comes out. Hang on, let's hit that therapy bell. Rejecting your effort because you think other people don't like you really just screams that you don't like you. And no amount of rewriting your third draft is going to suddenly make you like yourself. The same way that spending time and trying to like yourself will. I didn't learn that lesson until like hella super recently, because I don't like myself. I'm working on it, but I used to avoid effort. I used to avoid trying. I used to avoid anything where failure was nearby, let alone possible. Because I thought that any failure I had marked me forever and severely hindered me, held me back, held me down. And every failure put everybody else one step ahead of me. So if I failed 10 times, I'm now 10 steps behind everybody else. And it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that at all. Because, well, first of all, because it's not a race. And second of all, that's an absolutely ridiculous proposition that suggests that everyone is competing with everybody else for a prize that none of us know we're getting. We don't even know what it is, but we're trying all the same. That's just not what we're doing. That's just not how this works. But that's the starting point. That's where I thought of failure. I can't fail, so I don't like failing. Failing is bad. Failing being bad means I'd be a bad person, so let's not even try so that we don't have to worry about being or not being a bad person. We'll just be a good person who happens to not try so much. When you say it like that, it just sounds lunacy. It just sounds wild. Like, what do you mean you didn't try? I didn't try stuff. I turned down jobs, like in other states, for large paychecks. I didn't finish projects. I had deals and I intentionally let them lapse because there was a chance that some step down the road, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps from where I was, I could fail at that point. So I'm not even going to bother getting that far. Step 10, I could screw it up. I'll stop here at step 1. Thank you. Don't do that. Don't do that. I can't get some of those things back now. I have done, in some cases, irreparable harm and damage to other things. And I have to live with that. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anybody. Even for the people I hate, I don't want that for. Everybody deserves better than that. But failure is always with us. So why do we dislike it? Why do we fear it? Why isn't this what we want? Like why is it so bad? And there's two reasons. One you've probably thought of, and one I'm not sure you've thought a lot about. Here's the reason you probably thought of. Failure is less glamorous. It's less fun to talk about screwing up. It's more fun to talk about the good stuff. It's more fun to show off. It's more fun to celebrate. It's more fun to have good times and have good things happen. Everybody likes that. It feels good. And it should. It's a brain chemical thing. It should feel awesome. So when you finish your draft, when you write your query, when you get a partial read, when you get a full read, absolutely be proud of yourself. Give yourself some air horns. You deserve it. Something you did went the way you wanted it to go, if not better. Good for you. That's great. That's where we're all trying to go as frequently as possible. And when it's just us, when it's just your friends, when it's just your loved ones, when it's just a few people, getting that feedback means the world. Somebody tells you they're proud of you. Somebody tells you they love you. Somebody tells you that they want you, that you matter to them, that your butt's looking great today, that you're happy, that you make them happy. Anything like that can change everything in a heartbeat. That's the good stuff. We like that. And if you fail, you don't really get that. You get a different tone in somebody's voice. You get a different message. You get a pause between their words. It doesn't feel as good. You can't stop thinking about everything being a mistake. You can't stop thinking about things just being a little off. You start drumming up all those what ifs. Well, what if I had done that? What if I said that? What if I didn't do that? What if I did more of that? You try to find reasons to logic your way through the negative feelings, as if that's going to undo them or suddenly render them impotent. Because you can think your way through any problem. That doesn't necessarily mean the emotions get any kind of resolution. But you can think your way through any problem. Believe me, I've been doing it for decades. Why is that so loud all of a sudden? I'm really sorry. Hang on, let me turn this down just a bit. So, also, oddly inappropriate music. Press the button, John. There we go. The other reason. We live now in a climate and in a culture and in a hashtag community where the negative stuff and the positive stuff are taken to two extremes. We appropriate language. We use mimetic language. We use mimetic iconography and symbolism and semiotics and stuff to convey the extremity of things. Oh my God, I got a thing. I'm living for this. And then a variety of emoji or GIF to indicate absolute, oh my God, the bigness of this thing. And we do that so that other people get a sense of how we feel. And the more people who agree with how we feel, the better we seem to feel about the thing, and the better the thing must be, because look at all these people who agree with me. Whereas when we fail, we don't get that. We don't get, maybe we get a couple, oh shucks, kind of moments, some memes, some GIFs, something like that. But the response is never the same. In fact, it is possible that if you screw up, somebody might yell at you for being a downer. It happens to me all the time. Doesn't make any sense. You're just being honest. But because you're being negative, you are somehow ruining somebody else's good time, which is horseshit. But social media is the second reason why we've changed the way we feel about failure. Failure is either to be brushed aside or moped about. Success is either to be celebrated a moderate amount or celebrated to the extreme. And there's no room anymore. There's no nuance. There's no, hey, I'm keeping this to myself. It seems weird to do that. But failure is always there. Too many people live in fear of failure. I continue most times, most days to live in fear of failure. Because how do we define failure? How do we know what failure is? Let's just look at some definitions. Let's just look at some plain old, how do we label this thing? Failure is what? Not getting the response you wanted? Maybe that's the way we define failure. Maybe we define failure as you get rejections where you want acceptances. Maybe we get silence instead of a response, right? Maybe that's our definition of failure. Okay. All right, let's go with that. Let's use that as our operating definition just for a couple minutes, okay? So, you write a query or you put your book out there and it's not immediately scooped up. You get a couple rejections for query letters. Maybe it takes a while to get a couple sales. Maybe you don't get any sales. But you don't get the response you expected. Did you fail? Is that failing? You didn't get the response you wanted, so clearly you must have failed. But did you fail? Consider this. Let's walk through this some more. Come on, this is your definition of failure, right? You didn't get the response you wanted. Doesn't that assume on some level that this failure is finite? That there's a set amount of time? If you query 10 people, you send out 10 queries or whatever, you get 6 rejections. Let's say over a weekend. You get 6 rejections. You still have 4 pending answers. Have you failed? Do you fail only when the 10th one comes in? Do you fail when the majority of them are not the response you want? What happens if you send out 10 queries and none of them reject you, but one says yes? So you got the response you didn't want. You got rejected. But you also got the response you wanted. And you got more of the response you didn't want than the response you wanted. So you failed. If we're looking just at the math, you had more no's than yeses. Generally, that's how we determine if a thing didn't work. But if you get more no's than yeses and you get one yes, we generally don't talk about that. We don't say, oh, well, you failed, but you made it. We say, no, you made it. Why? Why do we do that? Could it be we do that because our definition of failure is variable, and it should be variable? That it's temporary. That it's not really failure if we're just counting the responses we didn't get. Or maybe failure in those terms means it's failure based on someone else's decision, not ours. Because if you're counting rejection letters, if you're counting an absence of reviews or an absence of sales, you are saying that my failure, whatever it is, whatever you're making, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're making, all that stuff is contingent on other people. Your labor made the thing that you're trying to sell, that you're trying to query, that you're trying to publish. You did that. But you're going to let somebody else essentially determine that you failed? I can't tell if that's the most capitalist thing I've heard all day, or if that's just the strangest thing I've heard now that I say it out loud. We don't apply that standard to anything else. It's only in the productive sphere food, art, crafts. If you continue to find a way to make sure that somebody else gets to determine that you fail, when would you ever think differently? Because the minute you started accruing failures externally, other people saying, well, this isn't for me, this only gets a star, this gets 2 stars, this isn't worth the $1.99 or whatever. How much harder do you have to work to try to be good enough? You just start people pleasing. You just start trying to change what it is you're intending to do or planning to do because you want other people to be happy. Is that why you did the thing in the first place? Really? I understand you did the thing because on some level you wanted to make a living. But if you just wanted to make a living doing something productive, there's loads more things you could do that are better than writing. Certainly faster. Certainly more lucrative. So long as you let failure be a thing other people can tack on you or place on you, you will find tremendous dissatisfaction. Because you will spend far too much time living in fear of their rejection rather than their acceptance. Because social media wires us for pessimism rather than hope. For a number of reasons stemming from patriarchy, white supremacy, colonialism, ableism, ageism, discrimination, any other ism and phobia I'm not immediately thinking of. It's in there. It's all baked in there. Because the hashtag writing community, it's not a community. It's a branding issue. And I can tell you that by the hashtag writing community standards, I have failed. I am certainly not as successful as other people in my field. Now, granted, I'm not looking to take $10,000 from you. I'm not even looking to take $1 from you sometimes. But I have failed. So long as I sit there and go, well, compared to this other person, insert name here, I'm not as successful, popular, liked. My tweets go out on the same platform, but they get far more responses. So long as I let them be the arbiter, them be the yardstick, I failed. So how else could I define failure? What else could I do? How could I see this differently? Well, let's come up with a different definition. Let's take a look at failure in a different way. What if we didn't say failure was somebody else's decision, but what if we said failure was, I don't know. What if we said failure was about our expectations? Now we've given ourselves a little bit more latitude. Now all of a sudden we've done some stuff. We have room to do well. Just not good enough. But at least now we give ourselves a chance to be good on our own merit, by our own effort, by our own labor. That's pretty good. We're swinging positive eventually. Hey, we're on the way up. Give ourselves some air horns. Yay, we're working towards positive. Go us. Anyway. Too often, for a number of reasons, some of them sounding to do with words that rhyme with Moshelpedia, teach us that we have to set our expectations higher for a number of reasons. Because they want a competitive atmosphere. Because they don't want you working together. Because working together means you care about other people. Because working together means you're empathetic and interested and invested in others. And you are prioritizing the group over the individual. And, well, comrades, that's just not good. That's what those, libs that you got to own and those pinkos who do the things. That's what, no. We need to do it ourselves by our bootstraps and other things. stuff and things. We have to set our expectations high because we demand it, because we're worth it, because we should know our worth. Isn't that the argument? And you should know your worth. Because you should advocate for yourself. Because you should be able to say, hey, no, I'm not going to let you treat me that way, other person. But that's totally different than failure. That's totally different. So don't appropriate my argument, trying to prove a different point. Setting an expectation too high is a great way to find failure. Let me tell you about the expectation I set every time I turn this microphone on and this software, OBS. I have an expectation that is entirely unreasonable, completely impossible, incredibly unlikely for a number of factors. I expect every time that I turn this thing on, there will be 100 people in here. Do you know how batshit crazy it would be to have 100 people in here? That one time there were 14 people in here, I couldn't keep up. 10 times that. Oh, God. I'd probably turn the camera off. When you set an expectation too high, it's very easy to be disappointed, especially because the higher an expectation goes, the more specific it becomes. My expectation of 100 people, loads of clients, loads of work, loads of people talking, loads of people digesting my hashtag content, loads of people doing loads of things, being a big damn deal. And every time it doesn't happen, I feel about 2 inches tall. Like a complete failure. Why? Well, I didn't get what I wanted. My expectation wasn't met. Therefore, I must be the problem. If I couldn't rise to my own expectation, I could not levitate myself by my bootstraps. What these expectations never really get around to, what we never really talk enough about, is maybe the expectations sucked. Maybe you picked a thing that's too big. I've been streaming half a year. It'll be a year in May or June, by all accounts. I got the Mac Mini in May, and I think I started in June with like occasional stuff. Maybe it was even later. Maybe it was my birthday. Maybe it was August. I don't really remember. It's not critical right this second. But it's several months away at the time I'm recording this. And I set these ridiculous expectations because I have a very inflated sense of myself, because I know I'm good enough to do it. I do know my worth. I do know my skill. But these processes we do, whether we're writing, whether we're editing, whether we're podcasting, whether we're making art, whether we're, learning to pole dance, whether we're making cheese, who knows what. Every single one of these processes take time. It's not going to be instantaneous. But we are taught, thanks to social media and a number of other factors, that the only way to get success is to go viral. To create circumstances of momentary confluence of interest and attention. To be the thing of the moment. And then it goes away. But once it's there, and once we follow it, we set that expectation, and every bar thereafter must be higher than the one prior. Every time. I'm guilty of it now. You think I'm not looking at the number of people in here? You think I'm not thinking about the 2,400 people who follow me? I lost like 300 people in 2 days. I started talking about taking care of other humans. Oh, big mistake on my part. You think I'm not wondering, hey, where is literally every single person? Well, they're busy. They have their own shit to do. You set your expectation too high, too quick, too much. You stop thinking about the work you've done, and you start thinking about how it impacts others. And we're right back to where we were, making failure this decision by the hands of others. Other people don't click this link. Other people don't come in this room. Other people don't read my work. Other people don't respond to my email. Other people don't eat my cookies at the bake sale. I must have failed. But you made cookies. You wrote a chapter. You finished a draft. You put the camera on your face, knowing full well that if you're not careful, you will have a panic attack. You extra ferociously flossed before, just to make sure. I did. It's a whole thing. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, I'm not saying that you need to set your expectations so craterously low. It's not marinara. Marinaris? The big ass trench in the ocean. You don't have to set it so like disgustingly low that, one person turns into a billion. And I can tell you from personal experience, I struggle hard with reasonable expectations. Because I really want those good feelings. Also, I'm an addict. I always want good feelings. Maybe you noticed. But the fact remains that failure from a creative standpoint hinges a lot on expectation. Right now, there is one line in my chat. And I click this button, and I see there are 2, 3, 4, 5 people and a couple bots. One line in chat. Have I failed? I don't know if I failed. I don't think I failed. I'm still talking. Slowly hacking up a lung with cat hair on my tongue. I don't think I failed. Because I'm trying. I made the cookies at the bake sale. I turned the microphone on. I put the camera on. My expectation is to blame. Here's how you can check your expectation. Here's how you can figure out what it is that you're thinking or wanting every time. So the coughing up a lung with cat hair, I'm like, yeah, it's not a bad line. I do actually shockingly have bars. That story is unrelated. Should I take a digression and tell it? I'll take a short digression and tell it because it'll give me a chance to drink water. So, actually, there's a great related element with failure. So let's tell a failure story I've never told online before. It's okay because the people I used to hang out with they're now fascists. But we'll get there. Anyway, so ages ago, I hated myself more than I do now. And I was desperate to see more butts. You know what I'm saying? And I was desperate to like engage with other physically attractive humans in a physically attractive space in a physically attractive way. Terms of service, Twitch, terms of service. And this was decades ago. And I thought, hey, friends who are clearly more attractive than me, let's go out and try to engage other humans for the purpose of, spontaneous, superfluous sexual connection. Terms of service, Twitch, terms of service. And so I'd go, and I would frequently drive. This was dumb because I would also do some drinking at the time. Not smart, not good, don't drink and drive. But, I was young and dumb. But my very handsome friends were having little to no difficulty, for a number of reasons, encountering attractive humans, canoodling with them, and either staining the back seat of my car or in some other way, shape, or form, causing a mess or a small housekeeping disaster in a cheap hotel room that I ended up paying for. Because, of course, they didn't have any money. Because, of course, they were too busy spending the money on the attractive person they were with. And I always ended up solo. Because, well, there was alcohol and dumb people doing dumb, dangerous things. Terms of service, Twitch, terms of service. So I would get distracted by other activities that occurred in these spaces and sort of lose sight of the goal for like, hey, look, people. But one of the things we would do to get ourselves sort of excited for this, to get ourselves primed to engage in these pursuits of other humans, we would have, this is so awkward, but I don't care, but I would, it goes to failure. We'll get there in a second. We would, now granted, we were of mixed racial grouping. I need to qualify that so that it doesn't sound completely appropriative. We would engage in some variety of slam poetry or rap battle. And it was not as good as you are imagining it. And if you're thinking it was a disaster, it was worse than what you're thinking. But at least having some facility with language gave me a chance to have a couple bars, to actually have something to say, to at least earn praise and accolade from people in my car, as opposed to, like, charming some clearly intoxicated human out of their clothing. I look back on it now and I'd smack the hell out of me for doing it because it was stupid. But I failed. I failed every night. I failed every time. Because I set an unreasonable expectation that I wasn't good enough. I'm sure if I sat down and tried, I'd maybe do okay. I don't know. I was young and dumb. People had powders and unguents and pills and things, and I got distracted. But I failed, and I felt terrible about it. Now, granted, over time, we stopped pursuing other humans we were attracted to and started looking at more political ventures, and that's how things got very fashy very quick. But that's a different story for a different stream. The fact remains, on the large end, failure is always with any creative effort. And if you set an expectation, even one where you self-sabotage it. Oh, look at that guy. He's way better looking than me. He'll have no trouble. Look at me compared to him. I'm oof. Now, granted, I was bigger, not in a good way, rounder, more grimace-shaped than anything else. And I certainly didn't take care of myself and I did the bare minimum. So I wasn't doing myself any advantages or favors. But failure and expectation go hand in hand for me. But somehow, someway, I always found a way to kind of get by. Just do enough to be all right. It was okay. Things change over time. I got older. I got some money. I made better, not fascist friends. Opened my mind, opened some experiences, tried to do better, figured out who the hell I was when I wasn't trying to be what I thought somebody else wanted. And I failed less. I also did less, so that helped. But I failed less. And this sort of takes it to the next point, the next thing. Because we started off with failure as not getting the end result we wanted. And then we moved to failure being, an expectation. What if failure isn't bad? So I'm 20. Well, no, I'm not 20. I'm 23 in the particular story I'm thinking about. I'm 23, 24. And I'm in a loud, eardrum ruiningly loud, it probably explains a lot now, club in New York City. Not sober, like at all. But my very attractive friends are trying to perform some kind of tonsillectomy on these women who I don't know. And they're making plans to, travel here and go here and then do this and do that. And I'm very distracted because there's some other activities occurring in this place. And they're way more fascinating to me. So while my ostensible starting goal was, hey, look, attractive people with butts, it would quickly shift into other things. Hey, look, there's this stuff I can use. Terms of service, Twitch. Terms of service. And did I fail? I didn't get the first goal, but I definitely got the second goal. And it gave me a story I can tell on this stream. Did I fail? Thinking about it now, from what the cheese, Swiss cheese of the memory I have in my 20s, I think I'm actually okay failing at this particular effort because I don't believe these people were the high quality people. Like they were not. This would not have gone well for me. But did I fail? What if failure's not bad? That's the question here. That's the next way to conceive of failure. What if it's not bad? What if it's not the worst thing ever? What if it is not some great albatross or stone around your neck or some sense that you should, throw yourself from the rocks or get thee to a nunnery or something? What if it's just a part of the process? What if it's just a step along the way? Why does that feel weird to think about? Why does that feel uncomfortable for so many of us? Here's why. Because it puts the emphasis on the work you're doing. And maybe by association, that's the word I want to use. It puts a spotlight to the fact that you're maybe not working in the most optimal way. Maybe you're John in his 20s, desperate to engage in hasty physical congress with a girl who is not really able to give enthusiastic consent for too many more seconds. Or clearly is just, not the best kind of human being you want to consort with, John. But you're desperate to. So maybe you're doing that. Maybe you're somebody who's just racing out the door to get legit. To get published, to get your name out there, to have a book, to sell many books, to have money in your pocket. But did you fail? I propose this. Every failure teaches you something. It just comes down to whether or not you are willing to learn it. Now, I don't know if multiple failures across multiple things teach you the same thing every time. You are in a Santayana way condemned to repeat it until you learn it in some kind of great Sisyphean task. But every failure teaches you something. You get booted out of a group. You learn what you like and don't like about groups. You learn what you can trust and not trust in people. You get your heart broken. You learn what you can accept and not accept. You learn about boundaries. You learn about efforts. You get rejected on a manuscript. You learn how to make a better query. You burn dinner. You learn to pay more attention to the stirring. Every failure can teach you something so long as you're willing to learn. And if that's our metric, that's our yardstick, that's the way we're going to do this, then we need to strongly reevaluate every effort we make, don't we? I want to talk to you about some of the failures I've had. Let's go. I've been to rehab twice. Did I fail the first time? By most standards, yes, because I had to go a second time. But I learned a lot in that first one. Did it help? It didn't stick, but I learned a lot. It was able to get me where I needed to be and how I needed to be there. I wrote a couple books. They're out of print. I hate them. I hate them. They're embarrassing. I took them apart on the blog. You can still dig around and find them. I was young. I didn't know any better. I didn't really have a voice. I was too busy trying to be everybody else and was never me. I've had my heart broken publicly a couple times. Big. I've lost a lot of friends. For good reasons, for not good reasons, for my own fault, mostly. Did I fail? I'm not in the same places I was. I'm not doing the same things I did. I'm not producing the same things in the same way I was. But have I failed? If I didn't do that, would I be here? If you didn't get rejected with draft number 2, if you didn't get that piece of feedback way back when, would you be where you are? Technically, you failed. That's what generated the feedback. That's what, got you that comment or didn't get you that response or made this thing change. Did you fail? It's not arrogance. It's not selfishness. It's not stupidity. It's not blind, pointless meandering in the dark to say you can choose how you interpret failure. People do it all the time. Cognitive reframing. Sure, you can there's a term in gaming called lawful stupid. It's one of my favorite terms. And it refers to interpreting the idea of the traditional alignment spectrum of lawful good into a by the word, like by the book, as is cheerful, shucks golly gee, fusion of optimism. You don't have to go that far with it. But at the same time, there's something to it. You get to determine how it is you fail. Did you fail? Here's the tough exercise. Here's a hard thing. Write down your last 5 failures. If you can do 5, do 10. You can do 10, do 20. Big things, small things, recent things, old things. I fell off my bike. I didn't get my license on the first try. Had my heart broken. Got fired. Got booted out of a thing. Was great internet drama. Whatever it is. Write it down. Then next to it, on each one of those things, no matter what, name between 1 and 3 things it taught you positively, not just, oh, well, fuck that person. That's easy. Don't take the easy way out. Look at those failures. Name a few things that it taught you. Did you get booted out of one place so you figured out how to make your own? You lose some friends and then you realize they weren't really my friends. Did you write a bad query letter or a bad synopsis and then realize you needed to get some help so you could write a better one? Failure can teach you anything if you're willing to look for it. There's always a lesson. Every time. Always. I think there is genuine wisdom to be found in searching for that. It's uncomfortable. There's not a doubt in my mind it's uncomfortable. You're going to have to sit there and try not to fall into the hole of memory and the emotions that could still be raw. Try not to do that. It sucks. But it can teach you something. Then there's the next question, the follow-up, the next thing to say, the next thing to do. Now that you know what it could teach you, will you make a difference? I know writers who have been trying to sell the same book for years. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't know, whatever, but I know how long they've been working on it. And they've been trying the same query letter over and over. When I worked at my last publishing job and I was in charge of submissions, you would see the same people come back over and over and over again with the same query. Just trying it over and over. Oh, well, if this time didn't work, it'll be this time. This time it didn't work, it'll be the next one. Not making any changes. Still doing the same thing. Just expecting different results. I'm pretty sure there's a word for that. I wonder what it is. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not enough to just recognize, oh yeah, this is trying to teach me something. The point is, am I going to do anything about it? Am I going to let this teach me something? Am I going to change my behavior? Am I going to change how I'm thinking? Time and time again, I try. I keep writing this thing. I keep rewriting this thing. I got feedback. I got my own belief system. I got structure. I got notes. I keep doing the same thing over and over. Did you ever feel like letting those writers know they needed to adjust their queries as a new person? Hi, first of all, hi, new person. Thank you so much for saying something. Thanks for being here. Did I ever let those people know? Yeah, I totally let them know. I even, in some cases, told them specifically what they needed to know. On like official letterhead. Well, an email with a signature. With an actual statement. Hi, I'm, the managing director. Feel free to fix this query this way. Some of them did. And then the manuscript had enough problems and it wasn't worth it, or it was somebody else's book with the serial numbers filed off. Like it was just there were other problems, but they at least fixed their query sometimes, not always, because there were times where they'd send the thing in and I tell them, hey, fix 1, 2, 3 things. Here's how. Change this, try this, fix this. It's the same thing I do with individual clients. You need a better, you need a better first sentence. You need a better summary here. You need a better paragraph, whatever it would take. I'd lay it out for them. I would do everything short of rewriting the thing for them if I could. Sometimes they did it and they moved on to the next hurdle, the next meeting, the next step in the process. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But there were some people, and I don't understand, but there were some people who would not learn that lesson. I could tell you 10 ways from Sunday, hey, you want to get through this? You want to get a yes from this company? You want me to send you a contract and a check? This, and this need to happen. And they'd go, uh-huh. And then they wouldn't do it. I could be now, granted, I am not always known as like the nice guy. I'm usually like, I'm the hammer you send in to bang out a nail. But I can be pleasant. And I'd write the nicest email. It wasn't like I was being a jerk on purpose or anything. I would tell you flat out, hey, the reason why we're rejecting you is because your query letter does not spend any time describing exactly what your character is going through. You've told me a ton about how big the book is and it's your first book and how you think there's going to be 25 other books in the series and you want to do this and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you didn't tell me enough about this story. So give me another query that tells me about this story and we'll talk. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it, new person. I don't get it. They just wouldn't do it. So, what good is knowing that you failed if you're not going to do something about it? I understand that the system, particularly the traditional publishing system, is geared towards not doing that. I mean, I got fired from my first publishing job for telling people what they could fix and giving them notes because, that's verboten. Don't give people any kind of help. That would just be crazy. That would mean they become better writers. We can't certainly help them. We're in publishing, damn it. And that was, of course, years ago, and so much has changed since then. Now we have computers instead of typewriters. But if you don't learn the lesson, if you don't take that answer and do something with it, whose fault is that? I can't give you the thing you want without you doing this other thing. If you don't, you can't get from A to B without taking some steps. If you don't take those steps, I can't drag you to B. It's just not possible. It's contingent. Because let's just say, hypothetically, let's just follow this through. Let's say, you don't make those changes and I still hand you the contract and I still give you the money and you still go forward, right? I'm going to have to end up making those changes myself. because that's what I'm going to need to do to make the manuscript more marketable, or fit in with the aesthetic, or fix the problems you created so that other people will review it and like it, and algorithmically it'll pay us off. Like, those changes are still going to happen. And I would rather you do them to your own ability, for your own reasons, for your own benefit, than have me take a stab at it, because then I'll be cranky. Nobody wants me cranky, new person. Not a good day. Ask anybody in the Discord. Cranky me is a thing. Capital T thing. So, yes. By the way, thanks for saying something. Failure's got to teach you something. What you like, what you don't like, what your strength is, what you need to work on. Maybe it's not failure until you stop. And I don't mean like you write Monday and Tuesday and you take Wednesday off and then you failed. No, you just took a day off. I'm talking like you spend every day for 6 months writing, and then you stop for long periods of time. And I don't mean like you get distracted. I mean, you're just like, fuck it. I'm not going to write anymore. It's not going anywhere. If you walk away forever, how is that different than failing? I've given you plenty of food to thought. Thank you. That's all I'm ever trying to do, new person. My entire point here is just to get somebody to think. That's all I want. That, and occasionally say hi. I'm pretty simple that way. But if you're not done, if you don't fail, if you can't slap that label on it until after you're totally not going back to it, when it's gone and you're not going, fuck, you've table flipped and walked away, maybe that's when you get to say you failed. But that also means you're in charge of it. And that, for some people, is not the greatest feeling in the world. Because you are responsible for your success. Because you do the work. You want to write a book that sells well, you're going to have to write the book. And then you're going to have to market it so that it sells well. But if you're responsible for the success, you also have to own the potential for failure. The reason why you get booted out of that group is because you do some dumb shit and piss off some people. The reason why that book doesn't sell is because you don't market it. The reason why you don't take that job is because you're too scared. The reason why you don't say yes to this is because you freak out. The reason why you don't make that job interview is because you get ridiculously high in the bathroom. Which I don't recommend, by the way. Don't do drugs. But the fact remains, you are as responsible for your success as your failure. And if you are so willing, so very willing to downplay your successes, why aren't you willing to downplay the failures? I'm not saying you need to be too big to fail. I'm not saying you need to be oblivious to the fact that things are hard, or that you struggle with stuff, or that it takes, more than one attempt. I'm saying, what if failure is just a way to learn a lesson? You didn't work, you write this query and it bombs. It gets nowhere. Nothing. Okay. No feedback. No notes. Just silence. Crickets. I don't have a crickets button. I need a crickets button. Making a note. Crickets button. So, in the absence of feedback, we assume failure. There's a vacuum created because we're not getting a response, right? So what do? Rather than just go, oh, well, silence is part of the system by design. You go, oh no, I failed. They didn't get back to me. Because we're used to other mediums, other transactional forms of exchange where we get something or don't get something, and that validates our transaction. If I give you money for a cheeseburger, you give me a cheeseburger and you get money. So that validates my effort and validates your effort, and then we go on about our way. If I give you money and don't get a cheeseburger, you fucked up and stolen my money. But if I say, hey, I want a cheeseburger and nobody talks to me, we'd all freak out because that's not how the cheeseburger exchange rate works. But somehow, for some reason, in publishing, we've just set up the system where you can just send your stuff out into the world and not hear a goddamn thing. And then assume other people not writing you emails is your fault. I'm going to say that again. So you send out your query and your manuscript. You click the little links. You fill out the little website. You jump through whatever hoops the big giant system wants you to jump through. And because this other person you don't know in an office building, you don't know, sitting in a chair you've never seen, doing whatever it is the hell they're doing, because they don't write you an email, it's your fault. How? Just how? How does that work? Explain it to me. I'm a fairly intelligent, super intelligent, real good at the words I am. I'm a pretty smart guy. I do the talk good. So, how is it your fault if somebody else doesn't write you an email? That's on them. Is that failure? Somebody else doesn't do their job and you failed? That's pretty cushy for that first guy. They never have to do their job. It's always your fault. Isn't that interesting? But their silence can teach you just as much if they talked. It can teach you something different. Because silence from a traditional publisher is not always automatically indifference. Sometimes it's just, we didn't get to it. It fell through the cracks. Or it didn't move us one way or the other enough to say something. Okay. What can I learn from that? Remember that list I told you to make? List of failure, list 1 to 3 things you learned from it. Here's the next column. What do you do about it? Those are the lessons. How did you apply them? I'll tell you a story. I was a part of a very active writing community, not a hashtag. And it was going really well. I fucked up. Made some mistakes, pissed off some people, did some dumb shit. And they said, John, hit the bricks, get out. So I did. I was pissed. But I understood. Because you got to do what you got to do to protect your village. You got to do what you got to do to do the right thing. And it was the right thing to let me go. I wasn't ultimately happy there. It wasn't the right place. And it wasn't the right time. And I'm sorry. But I got booted out. What did it teach? I failed. I could have stayed there. I could have done really well. We were going really well. Lots of stuff were happening. Big plans. I put a wrench in them. I pissed off some people. I made life a little hard for them. Things had to change. It put heat on other people too. I hadn't planned on that, but that's how it was. There are reasons. They're not important. There are events. Specifics aren't important either. But all the same, shit fell apart. What did I learn? Never get in that situation again. But what did I do about it? Well, as soon as I was done licking my wounds and feeling bad, entirely reasonable and normal things to be, I got up and did stuff. I made my own space. I moved the business forward. I thought about the next 5 steps. I took several of them. I ended up not doing all of them because I didn't need to. Some were more comprehensive than others. But if you are unwilling to apply the lesson learned or the lesson illustrated by failure, that's on you. If you were good enough to try, you are good enough to learn. If you were good enough to try, you were good enough to learn. You've already come so far. You made the effort. it's not over until you walk away. It's not over until you stop trying. So isn't every failure as temporary as you let it be? Maybe. Possibly. Failure is interesting because it's at every part of this process. We've talked about it in a publishing context. We've talked about it as the later steps in the whole deal, right? Why don't we talk about it in the early stages? Let's just take a couple minutes here and talk about it in the early stages. You're writing your draft. Whatever it is. Science fiction, fantasy, screenplay, teleplay, romance novel, erotica, history book, cartoon, whatever. You're writing a thing. You decide that you need to change some element in your outline. It doesn't matter if it's a big element or a small element. You're going to change this thing, this one line, this one idea. Did you just fail? You're changing it. You've changed your mind. You're pursuing a new direction. You're going off in a new thing. You've got a new plan. Did you just fail? Did you fail item, 1-C on your outline? Did you fuck up your fourth bullet point? Or are you just rewriting? Let's even go one further. Let's think about it in even simpler terms. You're typing. Okay? You're typing. And let's say for some reason you have to use the word, iteration or guarantee. 2 words I historically never spell right on the first try. You have to use those 2 words or one of them or whatever. You write them down. You spell it wrong. Delete, 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 delete. Back it up. Did you just fail? You failed at typing. Why don't we flip the table and burn everything? Guarantee is the worst. Guarantee, fun fact. Sometimes you can't tell because I gesture with this hand. So I didn't do it today, but sometimes I write words on this hand so that I can pick up the pen or go reach for my glass and you can see my note. Lieutenant. Yeah. Lieutenant is a nut. Yeah. Lieutenant's a bitch of a word. Yeah. Lieutenant sucks. I get it. There are always going to be, there are words you spelled wrong. But did you fail? You just made a typo. Or if you write a thing and you press, F7 on the keyboard and you spell check and oh my God, the little red squiggles of doom. Oh no. You just failed. Why don't we all quit after our first typo? You just told me. People tell me this all the time. You just said, well, I didn't get published. So I stopped writing. I didn't get an agent. I didn't get a Netflix deal. I didn't get this. I didn't get that. So I just stopped. Yeah, but clearly you spelled lieutenant wrong or guarantee or iteration. Why didn't you stop then? What makes it so different? What is so goddamn different that before when you were drafting and you were writing a thing and you're like, nah, that paragraph sucks. I'm going to rewrite it. Okay. Why is it okay to do that with no consequence and no big deal, whatever, I'm just typing? Maybe you do a lot of it and you're frustrated by the amount of times you stop and rewrite and stop and rewrite and stop and rewrite. But that's different and somehow doesn't count compared to, here's a thing. Please tell me what you think. It's not different. It's not, it's a different activity, but in terms of the response, it's not different. Private versus public. You mean the response you get? Most of the rejections you get are private. At least in publishing. But let's follow new person. Hi. Let's follow your train of thought. Private versus public. If you're not me and you're not talking about your shit on the internet, right? Like you're not into a microphone going like, hey, what's up? This is the time I screwed up. If you're not doing that, who's going to know you did that? All right, so let's follow this out, right? So we're sitting and writing and we're stopping and rewriting and stopping and rewriting and stopping and rewriting. Do you tell everybody you did that? I mean, unless it gets absurd like, you guys, I spent 15 tries spelling the word guarantee. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho, hee hee. We had a good laugh. But the number of times I do it, or the number of times like I forget a password for something. A very common one is, oh shit, what's my streaming password? Oh God, what's the Netflix password? Shit. And then I end up, or the Canva password I use to make thumbnails or whatever. Oh shit, what is that? I guess I got to make a new one. If you didn't know, if I didn't tell you, would you know? And even if it is private versus public, isn't that out of your hands? Because the public would be other people. You don't have to jump on the internet and go, hey, this one time I was really high in a club. Like, you don't have to say that stuff. I don't have to say that stuff, but here I am saying that stuff. Why? One, because it makes me laugh. And two, it's my job. And if I'm looking to connect with you on an intimate, personal way, and in order to get you to stop and think, which is my goal, then I'm going to reveal to you things that you're not going to hear otherwise. I'm going to tell you how sausage gets made. I'm going to tell you how publishing works. I'm going to tell you how to write things better because I actually want you to write things better. It's just what I want. But failure, failure is our old friend. Why are we afraid of it? Here's why. Because we're afraid of being judged. We are afraid that somebody else, in our private versus public, somebody else is going to come along and make an opinion. And they will state that opinion, and we will hear that opinion, or it will be told to us, and it will graft itself into our brains. And somebody else's opinion, said one time under one set of circumstances about one thing, one place, one position, is suddenly going to become our constant definition. Do you know how guilty I am of this? I dated this woman once. It was weird. It was a weird relationship. But in the big fight that ended it, because of course it ended with a fight. Look, I mean, it's me. Of course there's going to be some fighting. I'm me. So in this big ass fight, she turns to me and goes, John, you have terrible taste in music. I don't remember anything else from that fight. I don't remember anything else from the thing that precipitated it. I'm reasonably certain it's because I drank all her beer, I think. It doesn't really matter ultimately. But the one thing I remember about that whole thing is, John, you have terrible taste in music. This was like, 20 years ago? Let's see, no. It's 2022 now. About 10 years ago? Yeah. No, I mean longer than that. Obama was president. It was Obama's first term. So, oh God. In the before time. But that's the comment I remember. That's the thing that sticks out. You will be judged. It's okay to be judged. It doesn't have to define you unless you let it. Because let's just follow this train of thought all the way through. Remind me, for I am but a simple man on a microphone, remind me what it is your goal is. You wanted to make a book. You wanted to write stuff down. You wanted to sell a book. You wanted to be a published author. You wanted to have a career writing so that your book sales would pay for a roof over your head, pay for food, pay for meds, pay for access to things that should be free, comrades. You just wanted to make a living. You put your material out into the world. You need reviews. The algorithms demand them. Aren't reviews opinions? Aren't reviews judgments? So, what? We don't want negative judgments? Just give me the good stuff? Okay. All right. Let's follow that. Who's to say what the good stuff is? Because let's say the person giving you that 1 star is shitty. Let's say they're your most hated enemy. A 1 star from them. This book is trash. He made Star Wars gay. It's always going to be one of my favorites. You know, there's too many politics in this guy's Twitter feed. That's the shit I get today. Who cares about people who engage in that behavior? I do. Whatever. The 1 star from the guy who hates you, who's always going to hate you. He's not interested in changing his mind. He came into this with a chip on his shoulder, knowing that he was going to shred it no matter what, right? Who cares? This guy's going to dislike you no matter what, for whatever reason. And even if you bent over backwards, twice on Sunday and tried to do everything you could, it's still up to him to decide how he feels. He can still give you that opinion. You're not going to change his mind. You didn't write this book. You didn't make this thing trying to change his mind. He's an asshole. You don't need to deal with that. So, don't. Just because the algorithm says you must have reviews doesn't. First of all, you don't. You just need a link so that you can sell. All the reviews do is make it more likely to show up in search results. But if you're doing your own marketing, it's independent of the search results. So, your hated enemy's best review, the best thing they could say to you is that this thing is terrible and you're a bad person, because they're your hated enemy. Is that true? Did my friend ruin Star Wars for putting the gays up in there? No. Why not? Because I liked the book. You get to decide how other people's opinions hit you. Now, granted, this is not easy. This is something that takes time. I suck at this. And of course, like anything else in the world, it's always easier to tell this advice to somebody else than it is take it yourself. But it's a thing. You can do something about it. You can, after you're done being angry that what's-her-face said you had bad taste in music, or that guy said your book sucks, or, you know, this guy says you've ruined all of existence, or that guy says you're a monster or something. Once you're done being angry, and you're allowed to be angry, you can have your feelings. Good for you for having feelings. You get to decide what it is you want to do and how you want to do it. You don't have to let someone's negative opinion become your permanent self-definition just because it sounds more forceful than the voice or words you use to positively support yourself. Just because they're louder than you are doesn't mean they're more right than you are. Side note, maybe you should just be loud too. Not at them, but to yourself. If failure only matters when you stop, and you're not near stopping, and you're not going to stop, then what hold does failure have for you? What magical, what effect could it possibly give you if it's just there to teach you things? If it's just there to illuminate stuff so that you know how to change things, that you know how to work things. This stream didn't work, John. You didn't get 100 people in the room. This thing didn't get any retweets. Okay, this thing didn't work. You got the same 4 people coming in. The Patreon didn't grow. This didn't happen. The book didn't sell. This idea sucks. That didn't work. You're tired. You're blah, 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 whatever it is. I'm not done. So did I fail? What can this teach me? What am I willing to learn? What am I willing to apply? What can I do going forward? Because I'm going to go forward. I'm not done. So there will always be a forward until I'm done. Failure is an inextricable part of creativity. You don't have to love it. You don't have to pretend it doesn't suck. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. You don't have to, Treat it like it's your best pal and invite it over for Kool-Aid or something, or whatever it is the kids do these days. Have it join you in a TikTok dance, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure what the kids do. I'm ancient. But it's up to you, whomever you might be, wherever you are, to choose whether or not you let failure stop you. And how you adapt to it, what you learn from it, and how you let it shape you or bounce off you or infuse you or define you. Yeah. I think that's it. I think I have answered my question. Now, all of this started, if you came in late, all of this started because I got interviewed somewhere. And what have my failures, the question was, what have your failures taught you? They taught me this. They taught me that I would not get where I am so that I could talk about my failures without them. Because if I had succeeded at any other points, if the things that failed didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. So that I wouldn't be able to appreciate the question, what did your failures teach you? Because I wouldn't have failed. I'd be off making all new mistakes, doing all new dumb shit. But I don't want to lose myself to this strange what if space. Oh, well, what if this? What if that? Yeah, okay. Well, what if I was a foot taller? What if I, had those cool Marvel superhero shoulders? What if I had more than an ab? What if all the people who knew I liked them liked me back? I can lose a lot of time and space sitting in what if space, That doesn't help me get stuff done. That doesn't help me move forward. And I like moving forward. I like being productive. It helps me feel better. So don't let the failures breed the what ifs. Let the failures breed the lessons. This is not easy. This is not simple. I have really tried my best to make this sound straightforward, but do not mistake this for a simple thing to try and a simple change to make in your life if you are used to always thinking you are never going to be good enough and never going to get it right fast enough, easy enough, or at all. This takes time. I'm still learning how to do this. I believe in you. I'm always going to believe in you. I'm always going to think and know and feel that you are good enough to do this. Not like in a sense where you're better than me, so you're going to get it done first, because there's no prize for that. But you're good enough to do this. You just have to keep trying. So let me leave you with this. Please don't quit. Please fail. But please don't quit. And I want you to fail, not because I want to laugh at you, not because I want to, get 2.7 million likes on a YouTube video of watching you fail in 30-second clips, but because I want you to go, okay, I've learned a lesson. Here's the lesson. This is what I'm going to do. My query didn't work. I better go talk to somebody about getting help on my query. This chapter's not pulling together. I better go talk to somebody to get help on my chapter. I don't know how I'm going to market this. I better talk to somebody who knows about marketing. The group of people I seem to be with do not really seem to have my best interests at heart. I should consider perhaps finding different people. Failure doesn't have to stop you. It doesn't have to define you. It is offering you a chance to learn. That's what failure has taught me. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. There are a handful of people here. Hi. I hope you're well. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you didn't mind this. Hi. I do want to point out that the new recording setup, you can't tell, but I pressed that button instead of this button. Again, you don't know. More stable. Big fan. Really digging this. So far, so good. Shall we do some plugs? Shall we get out of here? Let's do some plugs. The next time I'm here in your ears. You're very welcome. The next time I'm here in your ears will be Wednesday the 9th. That's 2 days from now at 7 p.m. Eastern for the Writers Chat. New people, hi. If you don't know what the Writers Chat is, it's a Q&A. You bring questions. I give you answers. You can ask me whatever the hell you want. It has like music and stuff. It's pretty rad. That's on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Patreon this week gets something. I haven't looked at the poll. Please vote in the poll if you're a Patreon person. With the command Patreon, you too can join the Patreon and the Discord. And then go find out what it is the hell I'm going to be watching later this week. If you jump on the website, writernextdoor.com, I told this to the podcast already, but I'll tell you. If you jump on writernextdoor.com, there's a new pop-up. Because, yeah, I got a pop-up. And if I don't have your email address for the newsletter, give me your email address for the newsletter. You're going to like the newsletter. It's going to be good. It's going to be like this, but better. A little longer, too. And in words, maybe. But that's a different discussion for a different day. I am more than happy to sit here for a few minutes and answer questions if you have them. Else, I will tell you that I love you and believe in you, and we will head on our merry way. Questions, anybody? Also, shout out to every single new person. Thanks for being here. I hope you come back. You're always welcome. I did not drink enough water today, you guys. That's embarrassing. Questions, issues, etc. The cats are good. Thank you for asking. Oh, sure. Now as I'm leaving, the music gets good. Yeah, I see how it is. Thanks. All right. We good? I think we're good. I'm going to see you guys Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. Take care of somebody else. Be kind to yourself. Be the best you think you can be. Please drink some water. You're worth it. I love you, and I will see you most definitely later. See ya. Have some air horns. See ya.